This company appears to have paid $500,000 for this domain name, and I think it's a steal. Hey, Chris Zuiker with Media Options help companies acquire the wrong version of their brand, broken some of the best domains on the planet. Check that out over at MediaOptions.com. Check out ChrisZuiker.com. I do a daily podcast over there. I'm on episode 700 and a gazillion, so a lot of episodes, daily insights and stories into domain name investing, and also for the domain for the end user. So it's kind of geared towards both every single day. Anyways, I'm referring to a story that I saw on jamesnames.com. Listen, if you have not checked his site out, check it out. He's got some great stories. I think he's one of the best writers in the domain space, and he just uncovers a lot of neat stories of domain names. Anyways, this story is about Blade. So Blade reports the acquisition of Blade.com for $503,000. It looks like they did an announcement. It looks like it was found from George Kirikos. He actually uncovered it. So it was one of those ones that was under NDA, and that's like being uncovered now, right? This domain name was sold. So it's acquired for about $503,000. A little bit odd here, that $3,000. Maybe they had like some fees or something in there. I don't know. It's a little bit odd. There's something else going on in there. There's not. I don't know. We'll see. But a couple lessons here, okay? So a couple lessons we can learn from this situation. And the first one is that it's like, why do companies buy a domain name? I was on Clubhouse this last week, and actually been on Clubhouse quite a bit. Some really good information. I think there's some really good conversations also happening in the domain space, although I have not been really as much a part of them just because you have to wait a while to get in there. There's a lot of auctions taking place. But one of the questions, there's like this enthusiasm that's coming in from people that are buying, that want to get into this space as domain investors. And it was like, go out and you'll find these domain names, hand register them, and you'll turn around, you'll sell them. And this exuberance that you get from a sale is cool. But you have to remember this, okay? This goes back to this Blade.com conversation. It's like, why do companies buy? So they're buying for there's four different strategies as far as why they buy. They're buying for the brand, the sub-brand, the marketing, and defensive in nature. And, typically when they're buying it for a brand, that's where you see the biggest, the biggest dollar amount, right? Because it's the greatest return on investment for the company. Now, it's interesting because in the same breath, it's like most companies really don't understand the true ROI to their brand, because if they did, they would be like, wow, that is the biggest steal that we got. Really we should have purchased that domain name for or we would have purchased that domain name for $1 million, $2 million, $10 million, maybe even $30 million like voice.com, because they understand that, listen, this is it's a fundamental element to branding. My thesis, and this is your brand equals your domain name equals your brand equity. And that in the end, it's about creating this simple, this effortless path for your customers. And if you do that, that increases conversion, that increases profit, and it's the fundamentals of brand equity. Now, the flip to this is that it's also the biggest risk that a brand has, because whoever owns the .com controls the global positioning. I tell stories about Kraken and Kraken.com, KrakenRum.com and Kraken.com, Workforce and WorkforceSoftware.com. And gosh, there's another example I came across the other day, Carrot.com. Just pick any single keyword domain name with multiple people that are in that, that have a stake in that brand. Okay, this brand equity, and you'll see who owns the positioning behind that. It's typically the .com, and if it's not the .com, okay, the raw version of this .com, is because they paid a lot of money to market. So they paid for it one way or the other. Our philosophy in Media Options is just lock it in, take it down. There's multiple different ways to do this, but this is a great story. I'll go back here real quick. This is a great story, right? From James and George, just on the sale of this great brand, right? So they recently filed to go public, and deal values the company at $825 million, right? So they've attracted $500 million in funding. 10% that'd be so it's about 1% for the domain name to own the brand and the raw version of the brand. Anyways, good story. We're seeing that this trend is it's picking up this year. It started last year with, we saw a lot of acquisitions, and it was a little bit different than most years because, we did more in outbound, but we really saw more and more companies that they knew exactly what they wanted to get. They're like, I want this. and they went after it. So we're seeing that really that's rising the tide of all brokers, right? So I think pretty much all the main investors. You look at the news, and there's a lot of deals that are happening. So if you have the opportunity, I tell you this: like lock it in now, lock it in before another company gets it. There's only so many like great brands that are still available, and if yours is still available, listen. It's the biggest risk you have because once a company owns that, they control the global positioning for your brand. I'm going to stop it here, share it up, go to chriszuiker.com, go to mediaoptions.com, check out my podcast, and hit the like button if you found value in this video. You just got done listening to another episode of .com Strategies. Check us out online at chriszuiker.com and at mediaoptions.com.